So I fitted the proper cup in here. I actually ended up with the wrong one. I actually ordered one for a Salisbury axle, so fortunately our local bearing shop had one in stock on the shelf, you know, just the bit like, well, sort of looks like that, doesn't it? And fitted it, so we're back on the road pretty much straight away. Now, the next thing, so that's pressed in, we've got the shim, I'm fairly confident that's okay, but what we have to do first is come across to our carrier and fit the crown wheel. Why? Because we want to assemble it in here, hence that's why it's back on the stand, so that we can check the run out of the crown wheel here. Now, this is the crown wheel we're fitting. It came off the one with the busted carrier. This is the original. I sandblasted a bit of it and it's really pitted, so I'll just give up. I'm not going to bother. That's kaput. I've sanded round here. I've filed and sanded so that there's no high spots on these bolts. You know, when you tighten the bolt, they'll move the threads a little bit. So this is nice and flat. So we're going to fit that onto there. Oh, no, it's not. We have to take the pin out because it won't go on. What a muppet. Will it go that way? The answer is no. So, there's something we found out. Right, we'll take the pin out. We'll do this again. You know why I'm smiling? I couldn't get this crown wheel on. Before, I've always put the crown wheel straight on top. You know, left the pin in and dropped it on. But this wouldn't go on because the pin is sticking out too far. Look, won't go on. But if I use the original pin, it goes on. You know, it'll go over. There's another one. That's a genuine one. Here's another aftermarket one, a Britpart one. Just won't go in. They're too long. Shit. Well, it's not the end of the world. I'll just have to grind them down a bit, but you know, just be wary of that. It won't go on. What a mess about, eh? Don't you just love jobs like this? Now, we don't want to grind them off too far. Now, just wait a minute. Just let's get some me measuring stick out. We'll measure them up. Ah, here it is. We'll set that to 0. Things are set to test you. 124.7. 124.62. So just to say over. That goes through there now, look, can you see that? So I'll put some new split circlips on, we'll try this again. Well, that was a right mess about, wasn't it? So I've pulled the crown wheel onto the carrier. I used 4 bolts. I didn't put any Loctite on them yet because I didn't know how it was going to go. And this is one of the reasons why I haven't fitted the bearings yet, because they're going to get contaminated with muck and dirt when they're on and off, taking bits and pieces out. So now we're going to put some Loctite on these threads, and we're going to tighten them down to 58 Newton meters. So I'll get on with that. Right, I've pressed the bearings on. Just a little thing how I put them on. I got this little, JP knocked me up a little bushing here to go just in the top, because you use an old bearing and cut it to press the new bearing on. That's an ideal size, and you cut it so it's not tight on the shaft, it's not going to stick. But you're never quite sure if you're going to press on the cage when you're turning it the other way around. So what I'd do is I'd get that bush there, put it underneath, and then press that on, and then you're assured that it is going to be good. So the next thing we've got to do is assemble this in the housing but without the pinion, because what we're going to do now is check the run out of the crown wheel. Now it doesn't matter if the settings left, right and centre, we're not bothered about that at this stage. All we're concerned about this stage is we're going to turn the bearings, the caps, until there's no free play, and then put the DTI on it to get the measurement, see if there's any run out. So as you can see here, I've got the dial gauge, the digital one, because it's only on a mag mount. We've got 1/1000th of an inch. Book says 4. Pretty good, eh? Now, another gripe, because something else has gone wrong. By God, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. I bought this little tool off Ashcroft's for doing these rings here, and this is the first time I've really used this in anger. And it's supposed to have this little laser cut piece here, and it's supposed to have 3 pins in. Well, they sort of got a little half-assed bit of weld on, and the pins dropped out. I've managed to find one, but I don't know where the rest of them have gone. Oh, that's a bit disappointing. I think it was about 25 quid as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to weld them back in. I'm going to drill and tap this to the same diameter as this pin. Oh, plenty of free play on that. And try and resurrect that. Oh my God, there's always something else to do, isn't there? Just when you're messing about. Well, just back from JP's machine shop, and we modified this Ashcroft tool a little bit, just to put some regular bolts in instead of the pins. Where have the pins gone now? Oh yeah. The pins are hardened in this tool, and consequently the metal is hard next to it, so drilling them out to tap them was a nightmare. So JP just put it in his dividing head and drilled some new bolts, some new threads and whatever, and we drilled them to M8, which is a bit bigger, and we just turned down some pins, and we put them on longer bolts, so if the pins snap, all we have to do is put them out and remachine them again. So all it means is we need a little adapter like that to go into there, and that's going to be a good tool. That took a couple of hours to do that. Right, next. I thought, just for fun, we'd check the pinion height again, using the old-fashioned way, using a gauge like this, and the height gauge like this, again courtesy of JP. So what we do is we've got a nice block here. This is a heavy weight on here, because when you pull the magnet off, the needle sort of jumps and it's awkward, so we've made a heavier weight, and then we set this on our gauge. Now I stamped on here what this is for: 24 spline, 10 spline and Salisbury. Alright, so this does all sorts, and you put it on there and it should be 0. Wait a minute, make micro adjustment there. Now then we take this and put it over here where you can't see, but you'll have to believe me, and we measure the bottom of the cap, and we turn that till it's 0. It's difficult to find actually the real bottom of this, but believe me, it seems to be right, and you do that for both sides. So I'm sort of happy with that, but what time will tell when we come to put the colour on the teeth, put the paint on the teeth, and that's when we'll get an idea where we are. We might be out a bit, I don't know, but we've got room for adjustment. So we'll put that to one side, so we can knock that down later. So now we've got the pinion in, now we can turn our machine round a little bit, and then set up the end float on this pinion with a shim. Little shim. Let me get set up. Well, I finally got the right shims in this. It's taken me a lot longer than I expected. It was either too tight or too slack. And one of the mistakes I realised I was making, and I will admit I've made a mistake, you need to spin this when you put your shims in and you tighten your nut. Spin it around. Just keep turning it and turning it to settle the bearings. Honestly, that was what put me off. I was putting it in, checking it. Oh, it's too tight. Need to put a shim in to push the bearings apart. Oh, now it's too slack. But now it's just right. So what we're going to do is just check it. I haven't got the oil seal in yet, and that's the most important. Don't put the oil seal in yet. We'll test it with our Newton meter-y thing. Just a little 1/4 inch drive, because it's supposed to be between 2 and 4 Newton meters. A little 1/4 drive with adapters on to go on the nut. It works well. So, wait a minute, I'll get my flashlight out, can't see. That is 1.8 Newton meters. Honestly, you're talking about a couple of thousandths of an inch on the shims to get that difference. I'm going to call it quits at that because I think it's good. It feels nice, you know. It feels really nice, but I'm sort of loath to put any more onto that. Well, put it this way. I can't get the right combinations of shims. It came with an Ashcroft kit of shims, this job, but it would be better with the one big solid shim, because you could never get quite the right shim. It was either too much or too little, and it doesn't take much. If anybody's done one of these before, you know it doesn't take much. So I'm going to call it quits today because I've just had enough of this job, and then tomorrow we'll put the carrier in, centre it, and we'll check the pattern. Now I'm sort of pretty much convinced that this pinion height is good. I'm not going to complain about that. This feels really nice. But you know, you never know. You're always in for surprises with these jobs, aren't you? Anyway, we're going to call it quits for there. I've had enough. Going for a beer.